Hey Nook Bookers! Hope you're having an awesome day. So, today's video is all about book series that you can binge on, like really get your teeth into, enjoy every minute of it, and just, like I said, just binge. From nice, simple, light stuff all the way into very spicy. So, do buckle up. But first, subscribe, like, and comment, please. These are all free ways that you can really help me out as I upload content like this every single week. And I podcast once a week, so like I said, like, subscribe, comment. Awesome. Okay, let's get started. So, I wanted to jump straight in with Cassandra Clare. Now, this is one of my very first book series that I ever really started to binge. When I got into fantasy fiction. I think it wasn't long after I actually first read like Twilight and New Moon, Eclipse, and Breaking Dawn. I think it was like the next, I'm pretty sure it was like the next series. Either that or it was House of Night. But anyways, it's still YA fantasy. And it's Cassandra Clare. There is 6 books. And it is The Mortal Instruments. So, book 1, kind of set this up totally wrong, so bear with me. So you've got City of Bones. You're following, the main characters are Clary, or Clarissa Frey, and Jace. And you also have some secondary characters, which I love, like Alec and Magnus Bane, and Alec's sister Izzy, or Isabel. Really, really fun characters. I do love this series. So it's the Mortal Instrument series. The general idea is you have Nephilim, so half human, half angel. And the Nephilim live kind of in between what us mere mortals can actually see. So like the shadow world. Think of it as if anything to do with magic is like automatically glamored. Therefore, mere humans, we can't see it. So we have people, or should I say creatures, like vampires, the fae, werewolves, witches and warlocks, angels, demons. It covers the full spectrum. There's a lot of Latin in it. So don't stress too much if you struggle, but there is a lot of Latin in there. But Cassandra Clare, she definitely did her homework. The Latin is all on point. I think it really adds to it. She's created this whole, it's set in modern day world. So it's not like a whole new world, but it's like a world within a world. It's awesome. Either way, totally bingeable. 100% recommend it. So book 2, in the same world, you got City of Ashes. Journey continues. There's a lot of tension that builds between a couple characters. There's a heck of a plot twist. Well, more than one, but there's one in particular that's just like, oh, no. It's just, it's heartbreaking. But then another twist comes, and I cannot even begin to explain the amount of plot twist that happens throughout this series. It's just epic. Okay, in book 3, City of Glass, things are getting more intense if possible. Valentine is causing chaos. Jonathan is causing chaos. It's just, there's a brand of evil for everybody. And talk about some moments of like particularly twisted thoughts. City of Fallen Angels. This is book 4. You're gonna find subtle elements of, and not so subtle elements of incestuous feelings that, I don't want to say, it'll give too much away if I do. Just definitely read these books. Book 5, City of Lost Souls. And last, City of Heavenly Fire. I do like how they wrapped this up, but there is more inside, further reads, should I say, inside this Shadowhunter world. You have, there's a few different books. You got like the Clockwork Prince and Clockwork Princess, that's within the Shadow world. There's a couple other books as well. Oh, why are they evading me? Lady Midnight, Lord of Shadows, and then there's the Infernal Instruments box set, which is a whole new thing, and I will completely fess up, I haven't read these other books that are part of the world. I concluded these ones, and I moved on to something else, but I do want to give the other books within the world a read. Although, saying that, I did dip into Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows, but I don't really remember it that well, so I want to say it would be on my reread list technically, but I'm sure it would be like a fresh read if I was to read it again now anyway. So, yes. Cassandra Clare, Shadowhunters. Do it, for sure. 2 thumbs up, 5 stars. I love it. Oh, and there is this, there's a tool that they use in there. Then I've listened to the audiobooks, as always, I know. And there's 2 different pronunciations for, you have Astele or Astele. Now, the correct pronunciation, as far as I'm aware, is Stele. Just in case. Is the only thing with the audiobooks. The reader changes up once or twice, and one says Stele and the other one says Stele. But then I have also seen the TV adaptation, and they say Stele, and they even put in like a little ribbing when a character says Stele, and they're like, no, it's Stele. So yeah, just little thing. Okay, moving on. So this next series is by Shelby, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Shelby Mahurin. And it starts with Serpent and Dove. This is really fun. So it's a world that has like witches and witch hunters. And the witch hunters belong to the church. So there's this very intense element between the church and witches are evil and all that kind of thing. And there's a journey of 2 characters. You know, you had a witch hunter who ends up forced into this marriage with a witch. Unknowingly, granted, he doesn't know that she's a witch when they get married, but there's circumstances and they have to get married. So there's this crazy personal growth journey for not just the witch hunter, but also the witch. Her mother, though, she is definitely a piece of work as well. It's heavily sort of French influence, like with the tone and particular words, and you have like poem. I don't think it's poems, but sort of quotes and proverbs, and they're French proverbs. Anyways, it's a really nice touch, I think. It gives it an extra bit of texture, an extra bit of something to it. I do really enjoy it. Again, I did these in the audio. I will be rereading them, but I thoroughly enjoyed the storyline. They're fast-paced, and it definitely has you keep like turning the page for more to find out what happens. There's death, there's light spice. I wouldn't say nothing too over the top or too inappropriate. More bad language. There's a poem or a pub song, should I say, that the main character, Lou, or Louise, but she prefers being called Lou. And then you have Chasse, which is short for chasseur, because she will never call a witch hunter by his real name. She struggles with it for quite a long time, until much later. His name is Reed, by the way. But yeah, there is a pub song just as an example of, you know, how the language kind of flows, and it's called Big Titty Liddy. So take from that what you will. Second book in that series is Blood and Honey. This one, you get to find out more about Lou's best friend, Coco, who is a different kind of witch than she is. Coco is a blood witch. So she has to literally draw her own blood and mix it with other things, whether it's honey or sage or whatever, depending on what kind of spell she's trying to cast. Whereas Louise, she is like, she draws on like a natural balance of power. So when she's trying to do something, she sees like all of these threads. So if she wants to, let's say she wants to break a lock, so in exchange, she can pull on that thread and it'll break her finger in exchange for breaking that lock. So there's always a natural balance, a give and take. So it's a really interesting one. Like I said, you delve into more of the best friend stuff, and there's a lot more history for Coco, more history on Lou, and wow, you do definitely get some backstory on Reed, because he's like this, what they call like a throwaway baby. He was a garbage baby, and it heartbreaking, really, really heartbreaking as far as the how and why he became a witch hunter and ended up like living within the church and all of that stuff. Really, really good book. And the final installment for that series is Gods and Monsters. So this is like the crescendo. It leads up to, well, more than one sort of big moment. Lots of tension, especially when they end up under the ocean in the sea palace. It's like this air bubble that's created for them. Super magical. It's like, and the merfolk, they're really neat. They're described as kind of really long-limbed, and anything that they can find treasure-wise, that they have it like pierced through their skin, or this as much stuff on show as they can possibly fit on them. And yeah, there's so many amazing creatures. There's like a magical lake, and the ring, and there's just so many things. So many things. And if I go into too much detail, it'll give it all away. But you also meet some of the gods in this, and who they're favoring and who they're not favoring. And like I said, the big end game battle. Really incredible. Ties up really, really well. And 100% bingeable series. So as a series as a whole, I'd say 5 stars. Good characters, good plot twist, good story arc, good like just suspense and shock factor. Just yes. Okay. Moving on from that, something a little, it's kind of a mix of modern day and back in the day. So we have The Queen of the Tearling by Erika Johansen. Now, I read this years ago, and I'm gonna reread it because I loved it so much. I mean, and it starts off in like this really old world setting, as far as like, you know, castles, palaces, kingdoms, that sort of deal. But then there's this like crazy twist that occurs, and suddenly it's all like modern day, and you're like, what? So yes, definitely a good one. Definitely. Spice wise, I'd say little to no spice, and generally little to no bad language. So it's pretty good for the younger readers too. Second book in that series is The Invasion of the Tearling. So stuff starts to happen. You get some more of that modern aspect of the story that I was telling you about, and some of the crossovers, and a few more character intros, and a lot more backstory. Way more backstory. Equally a good book, but my favorite of the series is definitely coming up. And that would be the final one, which is The Fate of the Tearling. Amazing tie-off, really awesome plot twists, and, well, explanations for things, and certain characters, like, 'cause some are particularly nasty. And sort of how Kelsey ends up, you know? She went like from Queen to something else. Like it's really, really good. I cannot stress enough. And it's not a simple read. It keeps you guessing right up until the end. Like there's this one aspect to the story that until it gets explained, your mind's just kind of like, have I missed a book? Have I missed a step? Have I missed like 20 chapters somewhere? It does seem a little nonsensical until this one part is explained and you're just like, oh, whoa. So please, yes, keep your patience, get through to the third book. All the answers are provided and I promise you'll enjoy it. I'd say I'd give the overall series a 4 stars. And yeah, just definitely give it a try. I'm sure there's some people who would give it the full 5 stars, but I would like a little bit more backstory in certain places. But, well, not necessarily backstory. I would like a little bit more present story at the end, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so give it a chance. Queen of the Tearling series. Okay, we're gonna go super spicy. If you're looking for fantasy romance that is like totally XXX, then the Bargainer series are definitely for you. So the first book is Rhapsodic. And this has a really interesting premise too. So you have the main character, Callie, or I think it's Callisto, her full name, but Callie. She's a siren, which I love, as you guys probably know by now, me and mermaids. And the Bargainer, who is Desmond Flynn, that's his name. And he's fae, and he gives bargains, and he's not usually a very nice person. It's a little dark how Des and Callie meet and how their interaction with each other unfolds. But it's definitely interesting. I mean, Callie works as a private investigator. She even has like some dark traits of her own, which I swear she's flirting with the line of serial killer with some of these traits, which makes her like an even more amazing character to get to know. And then you have her best friend who is an enchantress. Oh no, a sorceress. Sorry. They call her an enchantress because of her siren abilities. Like, you know, when a siren sings and you succumb, you have no more will. Once you hear the sound of a siren's voice, you'll do whatever they say, you'll do as they bid. So yeah, she's the enchantress, her best friend's a sorceress, and they end up getting into the world of the fae, under the hill, that kind of deal. And it just gets, wow. Let's come into book 2, because this is all about her and Des sort of, let's call it meeting each other all over again, because something happens that you don't actually understand until I think it's the end of this book. Understand what's happened to sort of make everything go on a reset, and yeah. So then going into the second book, which is A Strange Hymn. So you're pretty much fully in the fae world at this point. Very dark aspects in this book to the story. The main bad guy sort of plot thing, like he gets up to some serious stuff. Like, let's trigger warnings. That would be a good one for this series. It does have a lot of spice, but there's also trigger warnings throughout the 3 books. So please do be aware of that. And it's definitely over 18s only. Rated R. But still a fantastic read. So in this one, it's more just keeping up with the storyline and the plot twists. It's very much in the present. There's only a few momentary flashback scenes that give you backstory from like Des. Not too much from Callie, as that's pretty much covered in the first book. So going into the third book, obviously everything ties up and is Yeah, no, it's pretty beautifully done. It kept me guessing as far as the who on things. You had the Thief of Souls, but no one knows who he is. No one can figure it out. Like, the way his powers work and everything, like, it's this big question mark as to who he is. So when you find out, it's not quite sort of like, oh, mind-blowing, but it's just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So it doesn't suck, but not totally mind-blowing, but I do like the book. I would give this book series a 4 out of 5 stars in total, only because of that ending. If it was an ending that like totally blew my mind, it would be a 5-star series straight up, no hesitation. But if you're looking for some yummy dark romance with some pretty yummy heavy petting, this series is for you. Okay, last but certainly by no means least in this totally bingeable book series. I don't know if it's a vlog or video or whatever, but the last one's in this. And I only bring these up now because of the upcoming book release in January 2024. If you want to be ready for that release, you'll want to binge through this series. Well, this series, there's multiple series, but it is imperative for you to be able to understand another part of the series. I'm really not explaining this well, am I? Okay. So, it's 3 book series by the same author, but there's crossover. So, you definitely need to read them all. Okay. So, personally, I would start off with A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This series has, let's see, so you've got A Court of Thorns and Roses, you got A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and A Court of Silver Flames. So that's what did I say? 2, 3, 4. So 5 books currently in this series. And as far as I'm aware, Sarah J. Maas is planning on bringing out more books in this series. But for now, there's 6. Start with those. It's getting pretty tall. Okay. And then, second out of the 3rd series, the Throne of Glass series. You'll want to start with Assassin's Blade, which is the one just before this one. It's like a little novella. I would say it's a mandatory read for later on. You won't, like, some of the characters that are touched on in the Assassin's Blade, and the reason I don't have it here with me is because my mom's borrowing it. But, as I was saying, characters in the Assassin's Blade, you will find them name dropped, and they come up again from Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash, for that to make sense, and at the end of Empire of Storms. So do bear that in mind. So start with the Assassin's Blade, then your Throne of Glass. So I never really talked about too much. I'll do like a quick overall in a second. So in this one, you have your main character, Selena Sardothian, assassin, who ends up trying to escape slavery, if you will. I see it almost as like a dark, not really dark, but a retelling of kind of like Cinderella inspired almost. But yeah, very strong female character. Spice is probably low to medium. And even bad language, they tend to like change up the words, like rather than saying the F word, it was something like Reading, as an example. And just quickly going back to Court of Thorns and Roses, this is the lead character of Feyre Archeron, human huntress, and she ends up in the world of the Fae and trying to survive, basically just fighting for her life. Selena Sardothian. I'm not going to say what her status is because that'll give too much away. There is definitely a love triangle that crops up eventually, but there are other books in the series. So with this one, okay, we're really going to test my knowledge right now, straight off the top. I don't have a list in front of me or anything. So I'm going to see how many of these I can actually remember. So you have Throne of Glass. Then you have Crown of Midnight. Heir of Fire. Queen of Shadows. Empire of Storms. Now this is where you might want to start a tandem reading. So people people have been reading Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn together, as each book, their timeline runs pretty much parallel. So it makes the most sense to bounce between the two books. And then the last book that Sara brought out for this series is Kingdom of Ash. And just OMG, 5 stars, 5 stars, 10 stars, 10 million stars. It makes you cry, it makes you rage, it makes you laugh, it makes you everything. Epic series. Which brings us into the final. That's going to fall over on me. Stay. Which brings us into the final part of the series, which is a separate one, but again by Sarah J. Maas. Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. And the second book, which is House of Sky and Breath. And the third book, which is the one who's being released in January, which is A House of... what's it called? House of Flame and Shadow. That's the one. Lead character is, you got Bryce Quinlan and you got Hunt Athalar. This book, like the first one, standalone, I love it. It makes you cry so hard. God, it made me cry so much. Some really good plot twists, really good story arc. It's not a light read, but I promise you, once you're in Crescent City, once you're in this world, just epic. And then get through Sky and Breath. Now, the end of Sky and Breath, jaw-dropping. Anyone who is reading it this way, do not read the last few pages. Just don't do it. Avoid temptation. Do not read the last pages. Because just, wow. And it's got to be done. Just don't read it. Read all the way through regularly, all the way to the end, front to back. Do not skip. Don't try and get any spoilers. Nothing like that, because you will ruin this mind-blowing moment at the end of Sky and Breath. So yes, those are some of my most bingeable book series, especially for this time of year. The Sarah J. Maas ones, I would honestly start now so that you're not like racing for the new release come January. And with that, please, if you like this video, subscribe, like, and comment. Help support my channel and my podcast. And as always, my Nookbookers, I will see you next time, and I love you loads. Mwah!